Hi, I'm Dr. Ted Sun. We're here to talk about ESG and hopefully add some clarification to give you a better understanding of what ESG stands for and what it means for various companies across the world. ESG stands for Environment, Social, and Governance. To fully understand it, we have to look at it at three different dimensions at the starting point. E stands for environment. How does a company impact the environment as a whole? When it comes to that, there's a lot of hard science and it's very straightforward. How is it a company using its resources? When we look at the biodiversity, for example, when you look at the carbon footprint as another example, there's many different ways to look at how a company is impacting the environment from its production of products and services, as well as its use of suppliers. So one company can easily use a lot of great things when you're operating in the US, for example, with a lot of considerations for the environment, and then do something separate when it comes to suppliers, whether you get a supplier from another country that has very low environmental standards. In the current world, everybody's getting very smart, and there are softwares out there like Interos and so forth that looks at how do I understand the ESG aspect from a supplier's dimension as well. Many suppliers being asked to show ESG scores to make sure that you're not heavily impacting the environment in a negative way, regardless of the cost of the production that you may have to make sure that it's environmentally sound. Now, let's look at the social aspect. This is the second part of the ESG. Unfortunately, when most people talk about ESG, most people look at the environmental side, and the social and governance seems to be the minimal interest or focus. The social side has to do with your societal impact. How does it impact your employees? How does a company work with the community as a whole? So internally for a company, when we look at the social aspect, especially with COVID, how are employees being taken care of? Do they feel a sense of belonging? Is there a way for leaders to get people involved, to get them to be inclusive? On the latent side, especially for manufacturing organizations, it's the amount of risks that you have for injuries, your fatalities. Other aspects deal with child care or labor rights. Right, that's the social dimension. When we expand deeper into the social dimension, it's also part of the diversity, equity, inclusion aspect. Those are three separate systems that works inside the social dimension. The third part of governance, ESG, goes to the governance side. When you look at the governance, it's what is the genetic makeup of your executives? What is the makeup of your board? Right? Is there a good set of diversity inside the board? Do they make decisions that are inclusive? What is the ethics boundaries within the organization, and how is that followed? Any kind of bribery, any kind of corruption within the organization is also part of the governance. So within each three of these elements, there has to be an underlying framework that every company needs to take in order to effectively apply ESG strategies in these three dimensions. Unfortunately, right now, most people are used to the old CSR dimension, where the corporate social responsibility reports or corporate citizen reports, we've reviewed hundreds of these. Every company produces amazing reports that make them look great. But at the end of the day, when you look at the reports, they're quite often a one-off project in the environment side. On the S&G side, they're somewhat limited in the systemic aspects. So this creates a huge opportunity for many companies to dig deeper into embedding an ESG culture from a DNA perspective, so that every employee starts thinking about ESG and how does it impact themselves, how does it impact their company's reputation, their product and services, their customers, as well as their employees and the various stakeholders around them. So ESG is a fascinating conversation for everybody to look at, so that we sustain the planet, we sustain our survival as a species moving forward, while also being successful. Another key dimension to ESG is when you apply it right, the amount of innovations can be massive. Every company can create a governance structure that drives innovation. So imagine a company that you get ideas from every level, no matter where they are, globally, physically, hierarchically. Every single person can contribute to the innovation engine and produces massive amount of innovation. That's the drivers that every company needs, but that's also could be done in the framework of people systems within the ESG field. So I hope this conversation can be helpful for you. There's many resources. I've written many articles and other interviews and conversations. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn to have further conversations. Enjoy your exploration in ESG, and hopefully you can be one of the champions that helps our planet move forward and be successful. Thank you.